I'm Veronica Webb, and you are watching the stories behind the pictures.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Do you want to be somebody famous?
I am. I am Ron Galella, Paparazzo superstar.
I was obsessed with New York, with fashion, with glamour, with people like Jackie Onassis, because it was always my dream to come to New York and like live that life. And then always somewhere, you know, out of the corner of my eye, I'd be looking around for Ron Galella, the bad boy of fashion. I used to follow his photographs of Jackie Onassis. That was street style. That was all that you could get. And of course, like, who had better street style than Jackie O? I mean, hands down. It used to be, when I was growing up, like catching a glimpse of someone famous was like a really big deal. And so somehow he was able to do that all the time. You know, he was Instagram before Instagram. He was TMZ before TMZ. He brought the rarefied world of glamour and style into our homes. Okay, so we're at the CFDA Awards. I'm pretty sure by the hair that I'm there for Todd Oldham. And I'm pretty sure by Kate's hair, she's either there for Marc Jacobs or Calvin Klein. But fashion shows were such an event then. I mean, they're still an event now, but imagine, like, you know, you couldn't really catch a fashion show unless you came in person and you had a ticket and you knew someone. That was the only way that you were really going to be inside of a fashion show. And the world showed up, you know, from movie stars to politicians to kings and queens, you name it, they were there. I love fashion, right? And, you know, all the dresses that I had, I wanted to wear them. I wanted to bring them to life. I'm sure that Todd Oldham dress, I probably owned it at one point. Kate's superpower is she never says anything. And she literally, like, the only thing you think about when you look at Kate is fashion. That's it. Because, you know, she represents fashion, she wears fashion, she doesn't talk about it. She's like, you know, she's very private. And, you know, Kate's a sweet, sweet girl. Like, I met her, I think she was 14 or 15 when I met her. You know, so I've kind of like, you know, I've watched her grow up her whole life. This was the moment when High and Low married. It's the ball gown with the sweater and the cardigan. It's, you know, Isaac Mizrahi's incredible. My friend Terry Egan's describes Isaac as a bottomless pit of creativity. The energy that he brought to fashion in New York, and the youthfulness and the mix of high and low and the freedom of these gorgeous, comfortable clothes. But one of the things that I like so much about it is that you can see a photographer on stage. You can also see a photographer's light on the left in the corner. I mean, I love Isaac. You know, we talk all the time. We're like brother and sister. So for me, this is like a family album. It's a special moment. And I also think that this ball gown and, you know, the t-shirt, which Sharon Stone then wore a version of to the Oscars that year, represents another huge transition in fashion. So the next one is the Essence Awards in '94, and I have on the safety pin dress. And I wore that on the runway, and I wore it before it became famous. One of the most iconic dresses of all time, when Elizabeth Hurley wore it to the Oscars, I think. I forget where she went. That dress was like, what I loved about Versace was total X factor, right? Were you a wild child or a lady? You know, you could never tell like what a woman was in Versace. You didn't know where she was coming at you from, but you knew that she was sophisticated and worldly. And, you know, I loved how Versace pushed the envelope of what was sexy. Normally you're getting dressed in under a minute. Well, it used to be that way then. Like now in a fashion show, there's a lot more girls and everybody goes out once. But back then there were very few girls, and it wasn't unusual for me to go out between 4 and 6 times in a fashion show in different outfits. It's not just me up there. It's everybody who got up every day and left their family and came and, you know, sewed the dress, swept the floor, delivered the dress to where it was supposed to go, the person who makes the fabric, the person who's doing the lighting, the person who does the hair, who does the makeup. It's not just me up there, it's everybody. And it's up to me for that 90 seconds that I'm out there, 2 minutes that I'm out there, to represent everyone to their best. Okay, so this is me, Ricki Lake, and Milla, and we're backstage at I think the Beacon Theater. It's 1994, so it's still like, you know, dark and desperate times in the AIDS epidemic. You know, this is before antiretroviral drugs. This is before, you know, there was a wide acceptance and understanding and funding of the AIDS epidemic, so that it's, you know, at the place, thank God, where it is now, where AIDS hasn't been eradicated, but it's certainly something that is no longer a death sentence. Milla had started her music career, and she had her guitar, and she was playing a cappella, and she performed that night. Ricki Lake and I were pals. You know, we worked together fundraising for AIDS. I was on her talk show a couple times. I haven't seen her in years, but I really like her. But, you know, there was such fun times because fashion was really at the center of everything in a way that it never was before. And everything came together, you know, between MTV, God rest its soul, Style with Elsa Clench, God rest her soul, people being able to get a bigger window into fashion, and weekly magazines giving people a bigger window into fashion. So it was a very spontaneous time. It was a very unscripted time. And we were just all kids, like, you know, hanging out, dressing well, trying to do good. Here we are at the National Breast Cancer Coalition, you know, and now there's a lot of conversation in fashion about how people are starving for glamour and they want real glamour to come back. Because everything has been so understated and kind of, you know, natural and played down over the last few years. You know, this is like Sam Fine makeup, Oscar James hair, a beautiful Isaac Mizrahi dress. You can't see all of the dress, but it's a beautiful Isaac Mizrahi dress. And that is like me, where I feel like I'm personifying the kind of glamour that was in the Ron Galella photographs that I looked at as a little girl, that made me want to come to New York and be part of this world and, you know, just step out looking divine and being in the most divine, stimulating, exciting environments. This is, let's see, Kevin Aucoin did the makeup, Orbe did the hair. This is at one of the first Met Balls, I guess. And, you know, we did a fashion show, and Versace was the designer that was being honored. And then we just kind of all walked through and went to dinner. And it was very simple. I just love this dress. I think it's the coolest dress, and I felt so fabulous. It's like, you know, you can see on my face, you can see in my stride. I feel like, you know, it's like that one moment where you look and feel like you have it all. So this was, you know, when VS started, and of course by today's standards it's completely demure, you know, because we have like little robes on, and, you know, no one has like a tiny G-string or giant wings or anything, you know, too outrageous. But it was, you know, that was definitely like a new era in fashion. I don't think there had really been lingerie shows before that. And certainly there hadn't been a company like VS where, you know, sexy lingerie was seen as mainstream or legitimate or not scandalous somehow. It was amazing to do it because it took so much effort. You know, it was literally like training for the Super Bowl or the World Series. I know what I remember most about it is, like, one, working out 20, 25 hours a week to meet the standard of being a VS girl. And then two, kind of how awkward it felt, you know, to be walking around in your underwear and everyone else is dressed. But three, also, it was so electric because, again, it was another era. It was another new era in fashion, you know, and it was really interesting to see, like, where is this going to go? And obviously it turned out to be one of the biggest jaggernauts in fashion, and continues to be. Yeah, so I'm like super proud to have been a VS girl, and super proud that like Ron captured me there. That year was the 60th anniversary of the Oscars. Quincy Jones was the producer, and there was a fashion show with all the supermodels to open the ceremony. And everyone in Hollywood hated it. They didn't clap. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe we have to watch a fashion show with these models wearing our costumes. This is terrible. But it was incredible to have that, you know, because the Oscars was like the biggest thing in the world when I was growing up. And it was like the one night where the whole world watched TV to see fashion on parade. Sort of mind-blowing to go, but at the same time, I didn't really realize that I was going to walk the red carpet, right? And so I just took a dress. I don't even know what dress that is. It was a dress I had in the closet that, that I just kind of kept on hand for when I needed to go to black tie things, so I just threw it on with a little kind of like fur ski scarf because it's cold. But I think it's like a very sweet sort of youthful way to have attended the Oscars. I'm at the 4th annual Michael Awards, which I don't know what those are, in 1996 at the Hilton in a drop dead gorgeous Versace dress again. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful silhouette. Like, look at that tank top and look at those gorgeous colors. I mean, just look. What more could you ask for stepping out for the evening than that? This is an amazing dress. So again, this was another huge watershed moment in fashion where Azzedine started to do laser cut leather. I mean, we see it everywhere now and we take it for granted, but he was one of the first to really successfully do it and introduce it in fashion on a wide scale. So this is at the Brandt Foundation in New York. Stephanie and Peter Brandt did a retrospective juxtaposing Azzedine's work with Andy Warhol's work, which was very cool. And if you look through pictures from that night, like Amanda Lepore was there completely naked, standing next to Donald Trump. It's one of the wildest pictures ever. I'm sure Ron has that picture somewhere. Everybody who is anyone was in that room that night. When I think about what Ron was, I don't think I ever said more than hi to him, because he had this like bad boy mystery about him, and he was known to be a stalker, which when you're a young girl, stalker is like a very scary kind of title for someone to have, a reputation for someone to have. And also, he was also a person who needed to be seen and unseen. He had to catch your eye in order to get the photograph, but you couldn't know he was there.